Hello there, you wiggly woos, Andy here for WhatCulture Wrestling, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting awfully excited about the imminent arrival of All Elite Wrestling. Double or Nothing has been a long time coming, the roster is looking awesome, and these cheeky little scamps have even got themselves a big TV deal in the United States. It's all coming together beautifully, and at the moment, the last thing anyone should be doing is trying to pour buckets of cold water on everyone's excitement. Don't do that. If you do that kind of thing, we can't be friends. Having an alternative in this sport is a great thing, and after decades without one in North America, I think this is probably something we should all be really looking forward to, even if the only TV you watch is Raw and SmackDown. But that being said, amidst all the big positive stuff, AEW's arrival has created what I perceive to be one rather large false narrative, and that's what I'm here to talk about today. It's born of hope, happiness and optimism, and after years of complete and utter WWE domination, it's really impossible to criticize anyone for hoping for a better tomorrow. But we have to be realistic here. Not cynical, realistic. Let's talk about good old Vince McMahon, who we are regularly told thrives off competition. But how accurate is that oft-repeated statement? Well, let's take a quick history lesson to find out. Vince was driven by territorial competition in the 1980s and reacted by systematically destroying it and building the dominant mainstream WWF from its ashes. Once that cycle of popularity waned and Vince's products started bottoming out in 1995, McMahon became a man out of time, making cartoons while everyone else was creating graphic novels. From the laughable gimmicks first approach to his anointed main event disasters, the WWF was in dire need of a philosophical change, and it was driven by ECW and WCW. McMahon ended up outlasting that wave of competition by perfecting it. He merged the blood and guts and reality of it all into the hammy, hilarious Attitude Era, not only creating the most successful period in his company's history, but elevating the WWF to a state of perpetuity. And the thing about this narrative is that it doubles as a glorification of the past and a promise for the future. Various WWE personnel will tell you that Vince McMahon loves competition because the guy can't even lose a game of pool to his own flesh and blood without blowing a gasket. They'll tell you that if something came along, a rival promotion, let's say, he would love it because Vince loves competition. Just look at the constant stream of WWE alumni going out of their way to tell you how good the competition that AEW brings is gonna be for Vince McMahon and the WWE. And I've got a few choice quotes here. The first comes from John Cena, who recently told Canadian TV the following: "I think competition is great because it forces you to step up or step aside, and I think that that is fantastic." Up next, we've got Goldust, who said this while he was still under contract with WWE. "I'm very curious to see what Cody and the Young Bucks can do with All Elite Wrestling. I hope this really takes storm and becomes something formidable. You need places to go and work, competition is great, and it is the best thing that can happen for WWE." And up next, we have friend of the channel The Hurricane on friend of the channel Booker T's podcast. He said AEW is going to be good for the business. Competition is good, and there's an excitement in the air. This is the precise mentality that fans are clinging onto out of hope for the future. If AEW flourishes, Vince McMahon will be forced to make fundamental changes to the way he does business. He'll just have to. Well, I'm afraid I've got some bad news, and guys, I hate to be the bummer here, but it's probably not happening. It used to be in this industry that iron sharpened iron, but Vince McMahon is now so rusted beyond repair that all he's doing is applying shiny licks of paint to a product that has been in a complete state of creative decline for a long time. It just isn't 1996 anymore, and the WWF of 1996 was unfashionable, but at its best, outstanding. That year's King of the Ring pay-per-view saw Steve Austin go out there and make himself a star. But in 2019, his successors don't even have the autonomy required to quit the damn company. Look at Luke Harper. In 1996, while he was unsuccessful, Vince at least attempted to promote Shawn Michaels as a babyface champion with a level of conviction that, at times, bordered on horniness. In 2019, WWE's babyfaces are so lame and toothless that it's impossible to root for them until they turn bloody heel. In 1996, Mick Foley arrived as a major uppercard force the night after WrestleMania 12. Now, his big debut was heralded by a series of awesome vignettes, and shortly after, he beat the bloody Undertaker, for God's sake. In 2019, we get Lars Sullivan doing literally the exact same segment every single week. Good. By In Your House Mind Games in September 96, Foley's in-ring brutality had bled into WWE's all-round product. But in 2019, everyone, and I mean everyone from AJ Styles to Kofi Kingston to Becky Lynch, is hampered by this bland, homogenized style of wrestling that has rendered everything just kinda the same shade of grey. In 1996, the foundation existed as it should have to remodel the house on. But in 2019, that same foundation is oozing so much nonsense that it undermines every single performer with this rancid stench of normalization. So, does Vince McMahon really feed off competition? Does he bollocks? Cast your minds back to 2002 when Vince couldn't even bear an internal competition that benefited his own company. Paul Heyman's SmackDown with its awesome action and competitive framework regularly outdrew the flagship show when it came to ratings and interest level. Vince McMahon couldn't handle that, so what did he do? He used Heyman's apparent attitude as a reason to remove him from his booker's position. This is a corrosive mentality. Heyman didn't want to do things the WWE way, but what does that really mean? Well, the WWE way really means the Vince McMahon way. And in recent years, the only thing that feels like it has been born from legitimate outside influences is the women's revolution. Vince Russo left for WCW in 1999, and Jim Cornette left within a similar time frame to head up OVW. Soon they were joined by match layout genius and consigliere Pat Patterson, and none of these guys were replaced by combative voices in the booking room. Instead, Vince would replace these minds with a hive mind of TV writers too terrified of the big man to challenge his monocratic power. Contrast Russo's influence in 1997 to Triple H's today. And if you look back on it and think about it, Vince McMahon was more willing to hand over the creative reins of his company to a bloody magazine writer than his own son-in-law today. Back in the day, Vince famously grabbed hold of a copy of Raw magazine and told everyone, "This is what I want my product to be." Now in 2019, Vince, who doesn't even watch NXT by all accounts, told Hunter, "I want your 4 best guys," and when he got hold of them, he stuck 2 of them, Aleister Black and Ricochet, in a strange Bedfellows tag team act just because. But here's the thing, even if Vince was capable of change in this day and age, the management structure just doesn't allow for it. You know, the WWF really wasn't that far removed from WCW in the early Monday Night Wars, in that all those edgy home invasion angles were used to flush away the literal poop of TL Hopper. Now, WWE is entirely removed from AEW, or at least the old/new philosophies that Cody and co are using to market the company. Things like win-loss records, non-scripted promos, and all that other good stuff. The idea of incredible creative wrestling is just unappealing to Vince McMahon. On Monday Night Raw, Ricochet isn't an athletic phenom, he's just a guy Baron Corbin can lock into a 17-minute chinlock so that they can fill Raw's horrendous 3-hour runtime. Being the Elite's audacious storytelling just sounds like way too much hard work for Vince McMahon. And in 2018, it was legitimately more gratifying to follow a story about Joey Ryan's broken penis than to follow Daniel Bryan's post-return saga when he was feuding with the likes of Big Cass. WWE is also entirely removed from the Elite's comedy and indeed the indies at large. The sheer camaraderie of BTE compels its fans like a hangout sitcom, and it's actually pretty funny. In WWE, the opposite is true. Their comedy is spitefully designed to pop Vince, and Vince alone, and if you don't believe me, just look at that Usi Hot segment from Raw the other week. Vince McMahon can't compete with BTE's meta-millennial type of humour because he bloody hates millennials. But forget doing something new for now. Vince McMahon can't even do the old things well anymore. Jack Swagger failed as a main event prospect back in 2013, but at least his failure was noble. Revisiting his push now is almost eye-watering, as Vince McMahon paired him with a mouthpiece in Zeb Coulter and marched him all the way towards the World Heavyweight title scene almost as soon as he was repackaged. But Swagger in 2019 arguably felt like more of a star than almost anyone on the current WWE roster in 2019, and you could argue that Vince hasn't been proactive about pushing some kind of pet project since Jinder Mahal in 2017. Whether he was inattentive or just incapable, Vince could always promote, even if he couldn't book. Now, both are just kind of out the window. The last resort of the desperate is shouting, and even Vince has now lost his enthusiastic bluster. For years, fans have bemoaned the spluttering stop-start pushes that have defined the modern malaise of WWE, but these days, it's like those pushes barely even get started anymore. So to take this extended metaphor to its conclusion, 1996 felt like the start of something. 2019, on the other hand, almost feels like something of an end, which might sound ridiculous given WWE's financial supremacy, but let's break it down a little bit. Everything is so comprehensively backwards. I mean, WWE recently blamed injuries for their recent ratings collapse, even though it's their own road schedule and this ridiculous wildcard rule that is overworking main event stars like hell that probably caused the things in the first place. Situations like this make it impossible for WWE to move forward on anything but the balance sheet, let alone compete creatively with other organizations who are moving forward elsewhere. Vince McMahon doesn't compete in 2019. What he does is he takes his ball and he goes for the familiarity and comfort of home. And only if that ball is emblazoned with the XFL logo will his company compete for fan interest ever again. So that, dear viewers, is that. The biggest myth in modern wrestling exposed. AEW might end up improving things in WWE, but with Vince around, it's no miracle cure. Let's all just sit back, enjoy Double or Nothing, hope that AEW TV knocks it out of the park, and of course like, share and subscribe, and share your thoughts down in the comment section below. Also, don't forget to take your bonny selves over to WhatCulture.com and check out the awesome article on which this piece is based, written by my very good friend and also my dad, Michael Sidgwick. There'll be a link down below. And to conclude this little spiel, don't forget to follow us at WhatCulture WWE over on Twitter, and even myself at Andy H. Murray if you're into that kind of thing, of course. Tatty bye!